You know how some people tell stories about the past and everything just clicks? It sounds so perfectly clear? Well, that's not magic. It's all about choosing the right tool for the job. And today, we're going to master one of the most powerful storytelling tenses out there. Let's get into it.
Okay, so check this out. I went for a bike ride. I saw my friend Paul. Simple enough, right? Both things happened in the past. But the story feels a little incomplete. It kind of leaves you hanging with a few questions, doesn't it?
Exactly. We're left wondering, which thing happened first? Did I finish my whole bike ride and then see Paul? Or did I spot him while I was still pedaling? The timing is totally unclear. And that's not just a grammar thing, it's a storytelling problem. And that's really the best way to think about this. It's not some boring rule to memorize. It's a storytelling puzzle. We've got all the pieces, but we need to figure out how to snap them together to create a clear picture for whoever's listening.
See, when we only use simple tenses, our story is a bit flat, like a 2D drawing. But we can do better. By using more advanced tenses, we can add layers and depth and precision. We can actually bring that story to life and make it feel 3D.
So what's the secret tool that's going to solve our puzzle today? It's called the past perfect continuous. Now I know, that sounds super complicated, but trust me, it's actually your secret weapon for telling way better stories about the past. So what does this thing actually do? Well, it describes an action that started in the past, kept going for a while, and, this is the key part, was still in progress when something else happened. It's all about a longer background action getting interrupted. Okay, let's go back and fix our original story. I had been riding my bike when I saw my friend Paul. Boom, just like that, the timeline is crystal clear. The bike ride was the long, ongoing action, and seeing Paul was the short interruption. Puzzle solved. All right, so now that you've seen its power, let's get practical. Think of this next part as your own personal user manual for the past perfect continuous. We're going to break down how to build it and, more importantly, when to use it.
Building it is actually incredibly simple. Seriously, it's just a 3-step recipe that works every single time. You just take your subject, like I or she, add the magic words had been, and then stick an ing on the end of your main verb. That's it. I had been writing. They had been studying. See? Easy.
So when do you pull this tool out of your toolbox? Well, there are 3 main jobs it's absolutely perfect for. First, if you want to show how long an action was going on. Second, to explain the cause of something. And third, to set the scene by describing what was happening in the background of a story. Here's a perfect example of explaining a cause. He was tired. Okay, but why was he tired? The reason, the cause, was the long action that happened right before, because he had been running. The running totally explains the tiredness. See how clean that is? This timeline visualizes it perfectly. Imagine you've got this ongoing background action. She had been working in the garden for a while, and then, bam, the interruption hits. A shorter action. It started to rain. The rain cut the gardening short. Now you might be thinking, this sounds a little bit like other past tenses I know. And you'd be right, they're close cousins. So let's put this one side by side with its closest relative to make the difference completely clear. The key difference really just boils down to one simple idea. Was the action complete or was it still in progress? Past perfect simple, we had finished our ride, means the action was done, over. But past perfect continuous, we had been riding our bikes, means it was still happening when we saw Paul. That one little change completely flips the meaning of the story. Okay, this next one is a little more subtle, but it's really, really cool. Both of these sentences are perfectly correct, but they give off a different feeling. Had been living often suggests that the situation was temporary, but had lived suggests it was seen as more of a permanent thing back then. It's all about the speaker's perspective. All right, you've totally got the main idea now, so let's wrap up with some pro tips. We'll quickly cover a few common mistakes so you can use this tense with total confidence and avoid those little traps. So just watch out for these 3 things. First, try not to use this tense with stative verbs. You know, verbs that describe a state, like know or love, instead of an action. Second, this is an easy one. Always use had for everyone. I, you, she, they, all of them. And finally, be careful not to mix it up with the present perfect, which uses has been. And that brings us to the number 1 most common mistake people make. They accidentally say has instead of had. Just remember, has been connects to the present. If your whole story is set in the past, you gotta use had been.
Now, for a fascinating little pro tip, while this tense is amazing for clear storytelling, especially when you're writing, it can sound a little formal in just casual everyday conversation. You'll actually hear native speakers use the simpler past continuous a lot of the time, just because it sounds a bit more natural.
So after all that, what's the big takeaway? The most important thing to remember is that the past perfect continuous is a precision tool. It's designed to add clarity and depth, making sure your listener knows exactly how and when things happened in your story.
This is way more than just grammar, right? It's about being a better, clearer communicator. So my last question for you is this. Now that you have this awesome new tool, what story from your past are you going to tell better?